Hey guys, welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. Today I'm working on some parts on the the inside of the door here. We need to get our armrest mounted, and we need to get our door latch mounted. The car goes to the upholstery shop. The upholsterer will get the door card itself built and do some sculpting around all these items. So, turn you around, we're going to work on the driver's door, but now you know what we're after and see how we get there.
Welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. I'm Jeff Allison, and thank you for watching.
So what we're starting with is a Fessler built, I believe is the brand, armrest, which we want in this general area. And then we have also another Fessler item, a handle, which I want up in this area. Factory armrest would have bolted right here where these two little screw holes are, and would have just used sheet metal screws through there. Not really sure that's the best method of mounting one, because we all know you yank on them, these things get pulled out, especially if the hinges are not being maintained, as far as the lube on them and stuff. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use this general location. We're going to draw us a line off of our trim piece and get a level line to the trim, and we're going to set the door rest or armrest center, and then we'll come out over here with where we want our door handle. Basically, my idea was you had your arm on the rest, where would you hand grab the handle? So that's how I kind of came to it. You could put it pretty much anywhere. I mean, way back over here, up over here, just as long as you got enough that you can make the rod pull. We do have to extend this rod for where we're going to. And so for this, we're going to go ahead and get this cut, get this old sock off of it. I got some new anti-rattle material that will slip over it. The armrest, you pull 4 screws out of the bottom and that dismantles it. And the white parts are made to be, I think they're a low density PCV or PVC, so they're made to be covered with what we'll be using leather, like the rest of the interior. And then what we want to do is have a ruler. Like I said, I've already done the other side, so we're just basically copying what we did over there. So where that starts is at 9 inches off the rail. We need to get rid of this zip tie. And we'll come way back here so we get a nice straight line. 9 inches. We're going to connect the 2 dots. I already know from experience we need to, there's 5 screws in this, and if we center pretty close to where the center was before, we're way out here with the end of this, so we need to stretch that out. So what I'm using is just some 3/4 inch wide tape, and just stick it back here on my left, stick it back there on the line. When you get close to the line there, stick it way out here. Don't try and follow the line exactly, and then, because you will get a dip in it. So just get it stuck where you want it back here, right on the line. Follow your line, drop your tape down. That will give you as close to a straight line as you're going to probably get. You can check it just by coming up here. I'm a little off, let's try it again. I can see the bow in it. pretty close. That should get us where we can get the rest of our pieces installed. If we got our lines, we can get rid of the tape, get it out of our way. The way Fessler designed it, there's a center hole here, and if you just kind of took these 2 points, the center comes out right in this little groove. Let's see. So 5 1/4 inches, so at 2 7/8. Yeah, we're right on the edge of this. So we either need to come forward of it, into the center of it, or, I'm sorry, aft of it, into the center of it, or forward of it to establish our center. I'm going to back up just a little bit because I didn't realize with that door open how bad the lighting was in here. So I came down 9 inches, made a mark, 9 inches, made a mark here, and then I did it one more time way out here, 9 inches, I made a mark, and then use a piece of tape, string along there. You can use a straight edge, but like in this door, there's this dip, so I used tape to help me get the straight edge right, or the line right, and marked a straight line across there. These 2 holes were where the original armrest for the 66 Chevelle would have bolted to, and they just used sheet metal screws and ran them in. We're not going to go that direction. But I do want to keep this armrest in the same relative location. You know, GM probably spent quite a bit of time working on the ergonomics on that. And we're lucky there's a center hole here. Well, unfortunately, it lines up right on the edge, the downhill dive of this. So we need to either move aft of this indentation, forward of it, or hit the dead center of it. What I did on the other door was come forward of it. So we are going to do that again. And I'm just going to eyeball enough space that I can get a rib nut in there. And we're going to get this first hole drilled, get 1 screw in it, and then we can use the armrest to actually help us come up with all the other screw points. So we're going to get this first hole drilled. And I took a pair of calipers and measured out how big the hole needs to be for this thing to slip through. And then I marked that on my step drill. The black means don't go any deeper. So basically I want to see the black when I'm done drilling. So right there, and you can see the black is still showing on my bit, so that's my depth gauge. We're going to take one of these now. And a rib nut tool, squeeze that down. And that's now our center bolt. I'm just using, these are 1024 threads, and I'm just using a generic 1024 machine screw bolt, whatever it's called, Phillips head, just to line it up. These armrests have, this area where I'm screwing this in, actually has a beveled edge, so I have screws to go in there that fit that bevel very well. Fessler sent just a self-drilling, that's probably a number 8 screw, and it just, the head is small enough it kind of sits down in that bevel, but A, it's really long, I don't want all that going through the door, and B, you run into the same problem that the factory did. You pull on that door handle very hard and you yank these things right out. So we are upgrading. Anyway, so now that we've got the center one set, we can kind of pivot this. We just put our marker in the hole, move it up and down a little bit. On this one, just eyeballing through it to make sure I hit as close to the center of that full hole as I can. And I'll show you how we're going to make up for the fact that you can get your fingers back there. Take the door handle back off. And you can see now, by being able to swing that, I was kind of able to draw an arc through there. And we can drill the next 3 holes real quick. Those drilled. Put 4 more nut zerts in. Nut zerts, rib nuts. I've heard them called all kinds of things. Make sure this one's good and tight. I'm sure I did when I put it in to begin with, but just to be ultra certain, because if one of these is loose and you've got your screws running in there, you have no way to get behind the door panel to get to it to hold it with a wrench or a pair of pliers or something. What I'm doing is I'm running these in, and you run it till it bottoms out on the head there for the mandrel, and then you squeeze it, and it feels like it's done. If you let off just a little bit, we're going to tighten it up just a little bit again. One more squeeze on it. It's kind of by feel. Most of the time I don't worry about it a whole lot. If you're going to be able to get back to it, you know, if you're doing something through the floor of the car, you could always get underneath with a pair of pliers or vice grips or whatever and hold the rib nut still while you got your bolt out. But in a door panel and some of the other blind locations you use these things, that just isn't a possibility. So my preference is just to give them that extra little crimp to make sure they're good and tight. So that gets 4 of our 5 screws. 5th one, it lands right out here. And what I devised on the other one, on the other door, was to make a little panel, a little piece of, it's just 1/8 inch aluminum, and line this thing up, and then there's 2 of the nuts that would have held the original handle, original door handle, that protrude out and kind of stick in the way. So we're going to file those out of the way a little bit. Always mark your orientations. So we're going to go file that so that'll fit in there. And then we're going to put 2 more nut zerts in here. What we'll do is we'll drill through this plate and into the door so we line them up. And then all we got to do is find this one nut zert that we need to put in yet. So this will come on and off once or twice, and we're going to we're going to weld a spacer on here once we get this hole found. filed in my little notches to fit around those two nuts. That cleared that. And then I went ahead and pre-drilled the first step through the aluminum here. Now that gives me a guide for where to put this bolt and this one. Now that goes apart.
I'm going to set 2 more nut zerks.
Those are going to line up. So now we're going to open these two holes up large enough to put two number 10 screws through them. Location temporary. And guys, as you're making these, if you need to do something like this could easily be out of steel. If these have been test fitted, I basically talked to the upholsterer, and he and I kind of decided after the car was really already painted where these should go on the door. So, you know, it's always good to get other people's opinions and help with what your goal is, you know, especially somebody who does this stuff all the time. So then that's too far to try and put the drill in there. I hadn't tried that last time, so I wanted to see. Anyway, I just tried to eyeball it underneath the hole with everything lined up. And I got a pretty good mark where I want it. If you're drilling aluminum, you guys probably all know this, but it clogs up pretty easily. So I've noticed, especially on the smaller steps or my smaller just regular drill bits, it'll clog up those pretty quickly. Once it seems to get up larger, it doesn't have as much problem clogging. Of course, I say that, and here we go, clogging it up again. Now I'm drilling this hole out fairly large so we have a little playroom. I'll take this plate back off. I'll drill the hole behind it, put the nut zert in the actual door panel, rather than in this plate. And that's because we're going to weld a piece of tubing onto that plate to act as a spacer. That's going to go like that. We're going to put a piece of tubing on here. And I cut the tubing that I'm going to use to weld on there extra long, and then we'll use the armrest rather, to help us get the exact size so that we make this as close to as close to perfect as for the spacer. Then we can get the door rest on. We'll come up here next on our door handle, which this is where the window crank would have gone through. We're going to use electric windows. These things are cool. It would have fit there perfectly. The only problem with using it there is the part of the handle that pivots would hit this pop out. So we have to move forward just a little ways. So we're going to end up drilling another hole just up here just a little ways. But go ahead and get this done. I'm only worrying about doing one side of these because I cut them long, so once I get them put onto my plates, then we'll trim them off to get the exact length we want. Okay, so I got the, I'll show you what I've done. So I tack welded that little piece of tubing. It's actually just a piece of aluminum fuel line on there. And it's left long. We'll trim it down. I'm letting that cool off. And in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and mark and get the first hole drilled for this other. And what I used was 7 7/8 inches. And this is a replacement door. The other door was an original door. And there were a couple of other indentations and stuff here. So it happened when I did by doing the passenger door first, it worked out to where I laid it out in between these other indentations. So on this one, they don't exist. So we're just trying to duplicate what we did on the other one. And then I went 7 inches from this hole, which should also be 1 7/8 inches center to center. And sure enough, if you were on the center of this hole, that's where that one would be. So right there is the center of the part that catches. And I didn't get any instructions with these, so I don't know if they're intended to be done something like that, or if this was intended to be mounted flat and let that stick out. But to me, you need the thickness for the mounting, but I really don't want any more sticking into the door than necessary. So we're just going to drill this first hole right here. Pretty dull. And then we're going to use a deburring tool to backside that up. There we go. This also came with the 1/4 inch bolts that you use to secure it. So now that's in for good. This is cooled off. I can set it back in place. Our armrest once again on a pivot. I was about to say, we can see how much needs to be cut off, but I can see it, even though you probably can't. And I left these very long. Easily could have left them 1/4+ inch shorter. And they still would have been long, but probably would have been within range that you could just take a file or a piece of sandpaper to, clear them up enough that you can see how much I need to take off. And I just tack welded this on 2 sides. I mean, it doesn't need to be anything super special. It's just there to act as a spacer. So all the force is going in. And the only reason you're welding it at all is so that you don't have to try and hold on to things while you're trying to put on a door panel. So let's get this cut off. And now the last time when we're sure we got it the right length, we'll put some red Loctite on these, because these two shouldn't need to come back off again. Because it'll be behind the door panel even once the door panel is installed. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch that needs to come off there. So we're just going to take this file to it. That's just about exactly the right size. It could be tiny bit long without being a problem, because whatever your door panel material is made of, in our case it's like a 3/16 inch thick plywood type material. That material would allow, would let that basically press into it. Stock door panels are typically made out of some kind of high density cardboard. So they would accept that, So probably where I started filing it and where it is now, anywhere in that place would be just fine for mounting. Red Loctite in these bolts. Now we're going to switch to the proper screws, and when this goes together for the last time, I'll probably not red, I'll probably put like a blue Loctite on these. You need to have the correct screws so that the upholstery guy can take them off, build his door cards and put them behind him. Now, be very easy. I'm using 1-inch screws here. When I reach inside, they stick through the rib nut by about maybe a little more, right at 1/4 inch, but maybe just a tiny bit more. That is strictly, I started to put 3/4 inch screws in here and was going to send it that way. Problem with that would be when the door card went on, your screws may not be quite long enough, and I don't want to cause my upholstery guy more problems than he needs to get finished up. So just send a longer screw. So now we need to make this rod long enough to go from here to there. What I have for that is some of you may have seen in some of the other videos my son working on a Jeep Cherokee out there that's his daily driver. He blew up the engine in his, and then we needed to, we found another one, took the engine out of it, and we've just robbed all kinds of parts off of it. The people that had it, it had gotten stolen. Well, they had just done a major service on the engine. They had put new tires on it, new shocks on it, new water pump, all this stuff. So I got the whole truck for what I felt was a good price. And my son is going to end up buying it, or has bought it, or is in the process of buying it from me. And he then we took the engine out and put it in his car, and we took the tires and wheels off and put them on his. His tires were completely wore out. And just half a dozen other things. Well, in the process of doing this project, I needed some door pull rod, and I was like, hey, there's a Jeep out there. So go to the junkyard, get these. I can't imagine they cost you $1 or $2. This is one off of one door, and I used half of it on the other door, and I'm going to use a piece of it on this one. You can see I still have, another 8 or 10 inches left. And it's nice because it already had a 90 on both ends that was tight. And then I had to put about this same kind of bend in there. I need it to be steeper so it comes down lower to catch this. So we'll go over, put this in the vise and bend this angle a little deeper. I'll straighten this out completely. Actually, it may fall pretty much in the right spot, so may leave that in there until we get this done. And then it's also got a bend this way in it, if you look at it this way. So I'm going to take this angle out and make it almost flat. But as you can see, repurpose what you need. So let's get this bin up real quick. And okay, once you get the rod cut, make sure they're flush with each other, you know, with the slack out. You can do one of two things. You can go drag your welder over here and put a little tack weld on that so that they stay together. Or what I did was just took a marker and drew a line across both of them in a straight line. Then I'll take this rod back off of the handle. I'll take the whole mechanism out. So take all this apart, pull the latch and everything out of the door there. We'll lay these across the bench, clamp them down, weld that up, and then paint the whole thing black. While it's drying, I'll get on to another project, and then after about an hour or so, it'll be about ready to put back in the car. So I'll go get this welded up and we'll move on to the next thing.
Thanks for watching Allison Customs Project Car TV. Like us on Facebook and check us out at AllisonCustomsOnline.com.